Hi, ladies. It's Johnny here for Manspeak. It's Monday night, 8:30 p.m. And tonight is our interview with a man, which you ladies always look forward to. And tonight, my guest is a gentleman by the name of Doug Neufeld. And Doug has actually put his hand up to have a chat with me tonight, which is awesome. I definitely do appreciate it. So just remember during the interview, ladies, that Doug's coming from a vulnerable state, and he's going to be sharing stuff, personal stuff. It's going to be a raw interview around subjects to do with relationships, sex, and dating. And you do have your chance to ask questions during the interview. If I don't get to your questions during the interview, I'll definitely look at the end of the interview and ask the questions to Doug before we hop off the call. So I hope you enjoy the interview tonight, but no further ado, Doug, thanks for coming on, mate.
Well, thanks. You're welcome. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely, thank you. Now, just give the ladies a bit of I'll give them a bit of a short spiel before tonight, just on the page, but I'll let you introduce yourself a little bit more and let the ladies know about yourself.
Okay.
Go for it.
Pardon me?
The stage is all yours, mate.
Oh, I see. Okay. So I thought you were going to do leading questions here.
No, just let the ladies know about yourself first up.
So you want me to do a little bio? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start. I guess I started out like any other kid, just having a role, growing up with parents and having a certain role of what a relationship should be, right? Instead of um, uh, what I would want in one, And also, part of the thing that really affected me later in life was never knowing what I wanted. I wasn't one of those kids that grew up um, knowing I wanted to be a fireman or an astronaut, and um, and I remember how that affected me in my first marriage. I never asked for what I wanted, period. So I never got it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And mind you, that it's Lisa. Um,
Hey,
Hi,
Lisa.
Lisa. Uh, and I found that one of the biggest problems, like getting into that relationship, and partly because she got pregnant, and that was the thing you were supposed to do, right?
How
And
how old were you? How old were you when that? How old were you when that? When that
25, I was 25,
and
and
quickly, while something that's interesting because I remember when you gave me some information about yourself, you said it ended before it started.
well, it really was. I remember uh, I was living in Calgary at the time, and I got this really good. I was working on my own as a subcontractor, and I got this really good job offer in Winnipeg, which is many miles away. Not long distance for Australians, but maybe if you go to the UK, it's a big long distance. But um, so yeah, I told her I'm going to Winnipeg. You coming? Right? And we knew she was pregnant at the time, and she said she wouldn't do it unless she got married. Well, okay. So then, and I remember on the trip down, she displayed a behavior that was like, whoa, I hadn't seen this before, right? And but young and dumb, and don't really pay any heed to that red flag. And I'm not saying I was innocent in all this. Um, it just was. It was doomed from word go. Two people butting heads, two dysfunctional people, and but determined to make it work. I've never been a quitter, right? Or give up. And the job I did really well, but I went to work 7 days a week. I never came home. Made a couple more babies with her, and uh, it was just constant turmoil. And I think after 6 years, I we separated and then tried to make it work again. But that was the last 2 years of it were like misery for kids, everybody, right? And it's I think one of the most eye-opening things to me too, because in the last 3-4 years of that marriage or relationship, and a couple after, I dealt with it by turning to drugs. And at the age of 30, even though I was still I was active in the drug addiction. I had amassed quite a bit. I had worked my buns off. I was worth quite a bit of money, and in 5 short years, I blew it all. Um, and like, I did convenient things with the kids. I never really took them. I never missed my payments. I mean, I just never did that, right? Support payments. Um, and I found it somewhat easy to, I don't know, this is the expression I use. Instead of going to find someone new, I went back to the well where I knew the water was safe. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So
Before you said you like you were with her when you were 25.
yeah,
How many relationships did you have before that? Like before you actually met her, what was the experience of relationships before that?
you asked. I was uh, I was a player for whatever reason, and I didn't start out doing like this. Wasn't my purpose. I just found that getting dates with girls was rather easy. Um, I learned quickly what they wanted to hear, and yeah, I was a player. I don't know. Could have been 100, 150. I don't know.
So
From
what
the
would interesting you should say that, and thanks for sharing that. What would women have to look for? What would be some of the signs that women look for in a player? What would be some of the things that they would think, oh, is that guy a player or not, coming from the experience?
well, um, all modesty aside, I thought I was really good looking.
Yeah,
Um, but I didn't say it or anything. I was a quiet guy. I think a lot of them said I was mysterious. Like I'd go to a party, as a teenager, you're 17, 18, 19. I wasn't the loud one at the party. I sat there kind of quietly and I don't know, uh, ask questions. I knew that women like to talk, so I would ask, those typical questions and make them feel. And not a lot of it was sincere. And I'm going to be honest about that. I mean, I wasn't like, you know, disrespectful in a rude way or anything. I just was manipulative, right?
yeah.
And that played a factor too. When I got married, my first marriage, it was like uh, you almost. I missed the hunt and the kill.
I was going to
When
say,
I,
I was going to ask you that, like, how do you adapt? Going from that the whole time, all of a sudden, bang, you got someone pregnant. You're thinking to yourself, well, the right thing to do is to get married. And all of a sudden, then you kind of like, it's like you kind of, it's an addiction. You kind of like, did it feel that way? Like you were trapped and you couldn't do anything? Or,
well, yeah, and what made it worse too is my first wife was a supremely jealous person. We go to the beach. I couldn't wear sunglasses because I might be checking someone out. So it was like I've almost lived underneath that. But I was never unfaithful. At the beginning, in the first year, I did approach. I remember one girl, and I was going to go meet her, and I said, "Well, you can't be doing this. You're married." And I didn't follow through with it. And it was kind of a wake up call that I needed to change that.
yeah.
Even in the
Did
depth of
she,
my
did she know your background when you got married?
no, she knew nothing.
No, and she had that insecurity in her from the start.
Yeah, no, and I wasn't going to share it with her. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, I yeah, I just wasn't. Yeah, I wasn't going to do that.
Wow. And
No, I,
what was the turning point? Like, you had a couple of babies with it, even though you knew you were there. What was the turning point for you to go, look, this is it. I've had enough. Done.
that was when I was about to be unfaithful in that first year. I go, wow, because you know what? There was a part of me that really didn't care if my wife was. There was a part of me that didn't really care about that. I didn't. If she would have, I don't think it would have hurt me right there.
Wow.
Um, yeah. So um, after that, yeah, that was kind of like a wake up call, and I just kind of curbed any temptations, the flirting,
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I just avoided doing it.
Yeah. And how many kids did you end up having with your first wife?
Pardon me?
How many kids did you end up having
Oh,
with your first wife?
I had four with my first wife.
Yeah. So
Um, Pardon me?
yeah, so when you had the four, you said you broke up and you got back together again. Were the kids when you
Yeah, one
had?
of them was post that. Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
and yeah, and then I thought, okay, fine. You know what? I didn't know how much control or whatever the universe has and all that, and I thought, I wasn't planning it, so I'll I'll deal with it.
Yeah.
Um, and it didn't take me long after the last child was born to say I've had enough. Like we weren't together, and I just had enough, and I decided to change where I was. I was at the depth of my addiction at that point, and I I packed in the towel and said, "That's it. I've had enough." A buddy of mine um, had sobered up a couple years earlier, probably 5 years earlier. Never said a word to me, right? Never preached to me. I just saw what was happening in his life, and I go, "I want what he has." And when I get determined, I do things. I make things happen when I'm really determined. So I yeah. And in all of this, um, especially after I was divorced, there were parts of me that wanted to go back into that lifestyle, but I didn't. In Yeah, I wasn't like out playing anymore. You
How
know,
old were you? How old were you when you were divorced?
I was 33 when I divorced. I think
Yeah.
8 years, yeah, and then 37 when I sobered up
Mm.
with
What was
nothing. I had nothing. So
what was the turning point for that? Like, because there's 4 years there, isn't there? So you divorced at 33, but then you sober up at 37. So you still had 4 years in that state. And what was your relationship with women in
I
that four?
had I met a girl, and here's really what happened. She was she had about 12 years sobriety, and I met her through a roommate. Okay, where I was living at the time, and she's a dance instructor. So it was like there's something exotic about that, and so that was the second woman in like 10 or plus years, 11 years versus before. So yeah, we had an 8 month thing, and she was sober, and she just accepted me even though I was at the depth of my addiction. Right, I wasn't your typical guy in the park bench. I never missed work. Okay, um, I somehow what they called a functioning addict is what you would have called me at that time. But
Wow.
but the I knew this. I knew I had to make so much money to do my support payments, 900 a month, and buy food, but never nothing extra. Right, always kind of struggling at that last couple of years. Um, yeah, so I met this girl, and she just kind of like, yeah, she really just accepted me for everything, and she brought it out of me. And um, the irony is when I sobered up, her and I were done. And I just thought, you know what, maybe the purpose for her and I meeting was to get me
Change.
just to look at myself, and so I'm grateful for that. And then yeah, I stayed. That was I stayed single. Didn't even look at women when I sobered up. I just put my nose to the grindstone, and uh, for the first time, I set up. I decided when I sobered up, I knew that the kids were living in dysfunction with my ex. It was really volatile, and I said, okay, if I build it, they will come. That was my mantra. Field of dreams, and I kept saying that over and over. And so then I went from a little bachelor suite to buying a house within 3 years, and my boys all started coming over. So, and I figured I'd just do things for them, and I wasn't going to have a relationship. I just said, no, it's fine. I can be single. I was quite enjoying it, actually. And I think
What,
when I
what we
hey,
enjoyed about being single, coming from being such a player to being single, what was the thing you enjoyed about it?
well, part of it is my only frame of reference for a major relationship was dysfunction, and I
Yeah,
was free of that. And until I learned that a relationship doesn't have to be like that,
yeah,
um, uh, yeah, I was that was me. I was like, yeah, I didn't mind it because, I had the boys. I took the boys. Well, I took them quite a bit, but the in between time, the alone time I had, the freedom to do what I wanted when I wanted, it was I hadn't had that in many years. And
yeah.
plus, an addiction, there's no freedom there. It's a prison. So here I am. Well, but then that's when I started really learning about feelings and humility and gratitude, because I didn't feel any of that for if drugs weren't my addiction prior, it was work. Like, and
And plus, by sounds that I might be wrong, I might be right here, but also you had addiction to picking up women as well. So there was always something.
yeah, there was, yeah, there
Always
was always
something.
something.
Yeah, and all of a sudden, for you're 37 years old, you were like, "Here I go. I'm single. I've got no worries," and you're embracing it by the sounds of it.
Yeah, and I felt the freest. And what I wasn't prepared for uh, were all the feelings that in about my second year of sobriety. Because the first year is all about getting that 1 year chip, or whatever, like getting that 1 year under your belt. So, and a lot of white knuckling and everything else they call it. But after that, um, everything that I stuff that I didn't feel, and I didn't feel it in the first relationship. And I'll give my ex that I never um, gave her what she deserved either. Hi,
Hey,
Vanessa.
as well. Hey, Vanessa.
I'm the blank in that.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, there. Okay. And Doug. I guess only you. Yeah. Only you and I can see that. Maybe I don't know. Yeah. And then I started feeling it, and it was the scariest time of my life. Uh, I had no idea what to do with emotions, and I was an empath to begin with. I, well, I remember as a child, I felt so much. I would see another kid in class that was maybe a little less privileged, and I'd look and I'd feel sorry for them. I'd feel for them. Um, uh, or somebody got the. I felt things, and it was I never was never taught how to manage these emotions.
Did your parents, when you were saying about, I remember at the start of the interview, you were talking about like your parents never prepared you for anything like that. Were they very closed off in their own relationship? Your parents?
Uh, oh, and my mom's very passionate.
Yeah.
Um, uh, my dad was the calm one, which I'm glad I learned that part of him. No matter what my mom did, my dad was just like a rock. He was just steady.
Yeah.
Even the old-fashioned discipline of spanking. I don't know if you grew up with that. I did.
I can tell your background. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely.
I don't even hate. I don't hate him for it. He might have gone overboard, but I don't really give a shit. I don't care. Um, but he was never. He was always calm. He was like this. You wouldn't even see him angry when he was giving you a spanking. And I'm glad I was taught that, right?
Yeah.
Uh, but
All my dad had to do was give me a look.
yeah, there was that too. No, actually, I grew up in a large family, um, and in a little bit different culture here in the prairies, and um, yeah, it's a different culture than you'd see in other places, right? Very old school, and no, I have no complaints about growing up, other than there's a few things that they didn't know how to teach, right?
Yeah.
um, and the equality, oh yeah, and here's an expression that was coined in your neck of the woods, the tall poppy syndrome.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, nobody was allowed to shine. If we weren't equal, growing up in a large family, they wanted to make sure everybody had the equal attention, or
Yeah.
and if somebody was shining more than the others, you were put in your place, right? And it was no fault of his. He was just trying to be fair and equal, right? He didn't know any better, right? So, um,
When you were saying about your feelings, and you were in that relationship where you cleaned up. Did she actually? Did you get to express your feelings when you were in that relationship, or that was pretty much she just accepted you how you were? Did you open up at that stage?
you mean in my first marriage,
No,
or
in between when you had that
yeah,
relationship.
there. It just for whatever reason she had this aura, or just something about her that just made me feel safe.
Yeah,
Um, but then again, I still at that point where I grew up. I have five brothers. We all play hockey, and we're all like testosterone, and uh, growing up on a farm, and it's very competitive, and you don't cry.
yeah,
No, you never rat out your brother if he's doing whatever, right? You take it on the chin, and dad doesn't know.
yeah,
Nobody, we weren't. No, that's it. So I grew up. You don't cry, and then you get into your first relationship, and you're not really. Or for me anyway. What's an emotion? I'm not
yeah,
going to let her see me weak, right? I'm the man. I'm supposed to take care of things. Blah blah blah. That was what I was taught, and yeah, I showed nothing other than what I thought was strength and character, and you know, um, and yeah, just especially when you get angry and you know something's wrong, and you just got to hold it in, because that's the way I saw my dad do it, just
yeah.
level, right?
Yeah, I
Uh,
can relate to that 100%.
and having no means of really, I didn't even have a friend really. Right, all I did was work, and uh, yeah, didn't go out, didn't do much. I just worked my 6 7 days a week. Always found an excuse to go in on 7 days, right? Um, but then, like I said, when I started having these emotions, not knowing what to do with them, and I had a mentor at the time, and wow, that guy taught me so much. Yeah, I yeah, I remember specific moments. I remember the day that I finally decided to. I had two mentors. I had a spiritual mentor too, and she was like a godsend, no pun intended. Uh, yeah, I remember the exact words she told me. Doug, I can. She could tell, and she just said to me, she goes, "Your feelings won't kill you. You need to feel them to move on. Okay, if you're going to grow, you got to dump this, right? And learn how to feel. You have to learn how to feel,
Yeah,
and it's one of the messages I have today. Is it's just not talked about. It's it's not something you sell much. People sell mindset work, but try selling feel set work. It just doesn't sell. It's not very appealing. It's like avocados. I know they're healthy for you, but I know a lot of people like them, but for me, no, I'm not into them. So yeah, and when I allowed myself to go to see, and this is where I discovered this whole thing, and I started writing on it. Um, I realized that every feeling I have is a gift. Okay, every one of them. They're a package deal. I can't just pick and choose. I can't go to the feeling market, the supermarket. Okay, oh, I want happy, I want joy, I want
yeah,
satisfied, right? No, it's the whole basket deal, right? And when I decided to go to a -10, um, I began to experience uh, emotion and feeling on a +10. What I found was through addiction or anything like that, I think the basis of all of it is you're trying to alter how you feel. And um, because who likes to feel lesser? Who wants to feel any of these things? I don't, you know. Um, well, I didn't. The irony is, once you learn how to feel, you don't actually feel those. There's a lot into that, but no, I found them connected. So because I only allowed myself to go to a -2 or -3,
Yeah.
I only experienced a +3. But once they were proportionate, right? So once I allowed myself to go to -10, I actually felt gratitude for the first time, like really felt it. It was a tremendous experience. Yeah, because I was so self-absorbed, and it's just an amazing thing. And so today, I'm truly grateful for all of that. Maybe I would have discovered this had I not led the path I did. I don't know,
Yeah.
but because of the path that I led, I was able to experience this, and it's an amazing thing, and it really changed how my last relationship went.
I was going to ask you about that. So all of a sudden now you've found this, like you said, you found the feelings that you had, the gratitude, the whole package, that you feel. So how did you approach the second relationship? Because the first one, like you said, it was kind of like you were forced, or you thought, you were forced into it. So if the second marriage, obviously you had a choice yourself. So what was the difference with that?
Well, just even the way it started, I was really not looking, not interested, and this younger woman, not that much younger, 10 years, she came after me and was quite persistent, and I also knew that she was not into drugs or alcohol or anything, and when I learned that, and I figured, okay, so I was really reluctant to allow my feelings to go, but she wasn't. She just was so accepting of who I was, right? It was an amazing feeling, and took it real slow. Just did the real healthy things with her, right? We didn't move in right away like a lot of people do, right? I think it was a year or close to of dating, and then another year and a half before we got married, or maybe a year. I don't know. I can't remember. And no, it was all good. That relationship went, it had its ups and downs, but and we were a blended family. She had a boy and a girl, and then we had one boy together, which I was done. I told her that when we met, I don't want any more children. She had other ideas. I think if a woman, I'm human, so if he throws a passion, somebody says it's okay this time. No, and you know what? Even when she told me she was pregnant, it was like she was all excited, and I showed nothing. I was like, really, right? It was like it's that classic movie reaction, right? It took me less than 20 minutes to go, okay, I don't believe in, I'm having a baby. I got to suck it up, right?
How old were you at that stage? So how old were you with that?
I was 40.
Okay.
40. Yeah, 40. Yeah, because I sobered up when I was 37. So 3 years. Yeah, there was a 3-year span there, right? Anyway, so that relationship went really well for many, many years.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of. And I have a thing where I attract strong women. Even though my first wife was really dysfunctional, she wasn't timid. Wasn't. She was strong. She was like just didn't know how to use it, right? Her power. So it was kind of like if you ever watched Harry Potter, how Weasley was trying to use his wand at the beginning when he didn't know his power, right?
Yeah.
He was blasting all kinds of things, and that's the way I described my first wife. My second one, no, she knew she was trying to hone it, and I tell you what, I learned some incredible things about boundaries, blended family, how to be a step parent, if you will. That's an incredibly hard thing.
What do you find? What do you find challenging about being a step parent? What were some of the challenges?
Well, one thing I learned, it took me a few years, but we saw a blended family counselor for numerous years. But the step parent's role is not to discipline. That's a huge, huge one. It's
Yeah,
just to be there for solidarity and
yeah,
support.
yeah,
Um, and then, you know, because they were quite young, they were 2 and 4. The girl was 2 and the boy was 4 when we met. And then me having a 4-year-old too at the time. So it was like, wow, we were like, but I give her all the credit in the world. She just took all of them on. Yeah, she was a superwoman, really. She was. Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
What did you find the biggest, biggest difference between? I gather the feelings would have been a big one, but what was the biggest difference between the first marriage and the second marriage?
Um, and well, okay. So here I am. I enter this relationship the same. Not really. Maybe more so knowing what I wanted, but still not feeling um, like I should ask. I should wait till it's offered, kind of thing. It's honorable and all that crap, right?
Yeah,
Um, uh, but I did learn how to ask for what I wanted
yeah,
in the second relationship, and be okay with that. I mean, and part of it is this: if you don't ask, you'll never hear no, right?
yeah.
But you'll
Do
never. But
you
you'll
think a
never.
lot of do you think a lot of men had that trouble today? Do you
Oh,
think a lot of men had that trouble about asking?
both. It's not just
Yeah,
men and women have trouble. Like there's in it, as kids, it's just if, and I don't mean to blanket, but I've heard it so much that we're we're not allowed, we're never taught how to exercise our want muscle, and I call it a muscle, um, because we're taught it's better to give than receive, which, and it should come with an asterisk.
yeah,
That saying, right? It's and I'm writing about this, about teaching people how to receive with humility and gratitude, right? And that receiving is an essential part of the flow of energy and in the exchange of it, whether it's love or tangible gifts or whatever, right? Um, and to create that harmony, that balance, there you need that flow in a relationship. And if you're not receiving or not asking, like it just, there's an imbalance that's created, right?
you say it's an imbalance there straight away, isn't it? Something's going to give there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, and then I guess to where I am now, um, we had a couple of major events that took place, and it took quite a while for it to set in this relationship. Um, we were cruising along really well, and I was monitoring how much I worked. You know, I could still work 7 days a week at that point, but in a few short years, yeah, I my business was flying. 2008, 2009, 2010. Uh, I did, I don't know, 2.2 million in sales. It was incredible. Cash was just floating around.
yeah,
I felt like I was on top of the world, ironically. And then I had an accident at work, very late 2009. Uh, but the residuals of that didn't kick in for a while. I fell 21 feet, or you metric people, 6.5 meters. Um, I did some major damage. I snapped my T5, uh, crushed a bunch of ribs, punctured lung, a couple places, collapse, torn rotator cuff. Um, what did she say?
Vanessa said that receiving is hard for some. Some are givers while others are takers. Maybe takers are just more switched on to receiving.
Well, there's a difference between taking and receiving.
Tell me more.
Um, receiving's done with an open hand. Taking takes a closed hand to clench, to grab, right?
Yeah,
To me, that's the difference. And if you, the very last line on the last song, on the last album that the Beatles ever produced, I know you're an MJ fan. I won't hold that against you. I was a Beatles fan, and but the very last line on the very last song on the very last album was, in the end, the love you make is equal to the love you take.
Oh,
Very cool.
yeah.
There's a couple of versions of how it's the lyrics go, but that's one of them. I always found that really cool. But no, there's a different. I don't think a person has to take anything if you're. There should be a flow to it. You know, it's like I guess this is such a well twisted or manipulated analogies about a river, right? How it flows, right? It that's maybe not the best analogy, but I don't know. I don't like taking things. It's not that I have to wait for something to be offered, because I think if I make something happen, that's different than taking it.
Yeah.
Right.
Do you struggle? Like when do you struggle at receiving, or you're quite comfortable at receiving?
I am getting way better at it.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
did you feel that? Do you feel like probably in your first marriage you were struggling with the receiving, where then in the second marriage you kind of accepted the receiving?
Well, it was more of a cash register. Okay. I would give and give and give until I thought I was owed. See, and that's where resentments get uh, start holding up, right? Because I got
Yeah.
this little adding machine going. Okay, I gave here, cha-ching,
Yeah. Yeah. I
and
get-
so that first relationship was all about uh, checks and balances, and you can't run a relationship like that. Well, I don't want to be in one like that where everything is. I think if 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 your focus isn't on receiving and your focus isn't on giving, if your focus is just on going with the flow that's there in front of you, right? Sometimes you give, sometimes you receive,
Yeah.
um, and and just to know that. But once you start keeping score, um, for me, it's when resentments start, and then little resentments are just like a cancer in a relationship.
Yeah, definitely. What a way to live, but because you have so much high expectations, wouldn't you? Of the other person, like, okay, I've done this 5 times. Where's
Yeah,
mine? The expectations would be insane, and that's when you would build up, and that's where arguments would happen, wouldn't it? Too, like
yeah. No,
like
and I
a dripping tap, isn't it? Drip, 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 and then when it overflows, that's it.
yeah, and it just completely erodes
Yeah, wow.
anything that's sacred. I think in a relationship, and then there's no respect, and then there's no everything. It just takes away all of it, and then there's dishonesty that's created through that, right? Because for me, it was like I always wanted to feel like I was ahead. I would try and not always give a little more than I received, and but that created such an imbalance. It's just so when I look at it, it's so stupid to think like that.
Yeah,
Um, and it's not about always. Yeah, I don't know. So I tried to. I really tried to learn about this in my second marriage, and stay away from it. If I ever felt the adding machine going on, I would go, no, no, she doesn't owe me. I don't
yeah,
owe her.
yeah.
Um,
Do you
yeah.
reckon
So
it happen? That would. Do you feel that would happen both sides of the relationship? Do you think women would be doing that to men as well, or you
oh,
think
the
it's
women do that too. Yeah, like particularly if you look at um, the whole nurse caretaker, right? When I did all those interviews for the book, The Art of Receiving, it was amazing how most of them, first ask the question: you think yourself as a giver or receiver? And it was like instant giver. Very, very few of the. I don't even know how many people I interviewed. In a couple hundred hours of it, anyway. Um, that was their instant reaction, um, and mine too. Hey,
yeah,
it's so much more honorable. But when you think about it, my analogy to this is a piece of puzzle, a puzzle piece. Um, it it gives and it receives. That's how it fits in to the big picture. You know,
Yeah, good point.
And otherwise, well, I've never seen a piece of a puzzle that only went one way. No, so and just to learn to be okay with that. There are exercises that you can do this with. Let's say you went and got a massage. Okay, what do you pay for a massage there?
I think it's around $100.
Okay, do you feel any guilt about getting an extra even 5 minutes out of that masseuse?
No, of course not.
Okay, you know why?
Why is that?
There's an exchange that went on, an instant one. You gave $100, you got a pair of hands for an hour or whatever, 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay. But in a relationship, let's say your woman came in and she wanted to, let's even go one step further. Let's go right into the bedroom. Let's say she wanted to please you head to foot for an hour and a half, whatever it was. Could you say, all right, thanks, and then just go?
No, of course not.
See, it's not that you would want to, but it's having the mindset that that's okay. It's a gift. I'm going to receive this gift. And it can go both ways. So one of my mantras, or one of the things I'm teaching, one of the mindsets is give without feeling you're owed, and receive without feeling you owe. We attach things to giving and receiving, and it's to get rid of that attachment. That there's and I'll tell you, you'd be amazed. And I know I had the same when I asked that question in my interviews. It was like, you're exactly like most of the people. No, I couldn't do that. I'd feel too guilty. But what if it was a gift, right? But I understand what you're saying, right? You want, and when you let go of that attachment, you in whether it's in the outer core of your relationship or the very inner core, the intimate, the it's amazing. It's amazing. Here's a question for you. You got the cutest little kids, and let's say, and I know they've drawn you pictures, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So your daughter comes up and she hands you this picture, and you look at it, and you have actually no clue what it is. Okay, it doesn't really matter. That's not the point, right?
Yeah.
And you compliment her for it, and you hang it up. And what does she do after? Goes and plays.
Yeah, the plays, yeah, forget about it.
She's giving you a gift. She doesn't want
Yeah.
anything in return. She's back playing with whatever, pony dolls or whatever they do these days, right?
Yeah.
They epitomize the true spirit of giving and receiving. And I know this because my youngest son, he used to get these. We had a massage table, and my wife and I were still married. We both do Reiki and stuff like that, right? And so here's my 3-year-old son. He'd get like a massage from her, okay? And it could have been a half an hour, 45 minutes. She might have been watching whatever TV show at the time, right? And when she was done, he just got up and left. He didn't owe her. Kids, like I say, they've not learned how to start with the adding machine. And to me, it's so key. It's hard. It's not easy to trust that, right? To trust that. But in order for this to happen, I think both partners in the relationship need to be working towards it. I don't think you can do it perfectly because we're human. I don't think we ever could.
Yeah.
But to strive to that and then to communicate about it, right? I think that, to me, that when that flow of energy is going in a relationship, wow, it's just fantastic. It is.
Like you said, you don't have cash register going, do you?
Pardon me?
Like you said, you don't have the cash register going during the
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like that analogy. I like that about the cash register. I think it's a very good way to look at it. You can just imagine how many relationships out there have gone, have gone down because of the adding machine, of the cash register, thinking, okay, well, I've given so much to that person, and they give him nothing. We'll see you later. You know what I mean? So, like I said, it's a tipping point.
Yeah, it's even with that said, there are things that you might have to wait until the book is out, but don't want to give up too much. So,
No, that's okay. It's been good tonight. I've really enjoyed it. You've definitely given some good insights and some good ways to. I think it's amazing. Like personally, myself, from the journey where you started to where you are now is amazing. I think it's a massive turnaround for what you've done. And to be that open person now when you weren't used to it as a kid. You didn't grow up with that one.
No.
How do you feel? I suppose before we finish up tonight, one thing I'm curious about too, I suppose as you grow up as a parent, what do you feel like you do differently um, with your kids than your father did with you?
Oh, I've done some things better, okay, and some things worse, actually. Um, One thing, my uh, not breaking a promise.
Yeah,
I don't think I did. At the beginning, I didn't do that better, but that's one thing my dad taught me that was really well. My dad didn't promise too much, but when he did it, it was like 100% fireproof, unless there was like some major thing or something that would intervene.
yeah,
Uh, and what did I do better? The shame. I have and I got to give my wife a lot of credit for this, but in the raising of the kids, in the whole shame around, you know, sex and body parts, and uh, my youngest, who's 12 now, okay, and you can imagine in the school playground and stuff, right? He's kind of basically grown up with two women, his older sister and his mom, okay, and he's just so used to seeing things and hearing things, and he could hear the word vagina, and it's like, okay, it's just a body part, like a knee. But if he's in a school ground, his buddies are probably just chuckling and giggling, like little schoolboys would, right, when they hear the word vagina. But to him, it's just he's growing up without shame surrounding any of that, and I'm really happy about that. It's just, yeah, he knows all about women's menstruation cycles, what happens, all of that, and it's just to him, it's just like, okay, it's just what happens. He was taught with a matter of fact about it. It's not like you know doesn't mean much to him.
yeah. Wow,
So,
powerful.
and even with my daughter, she's grown up well ahead of her friends that way too. Really mature, I don't even know how to explain it. We actually have a really good relationship. Sometimes I get uncomfortable with the things she's willing to discuss, but I have to, you know, transcend the fact that the role I'm playing isn't dad or mom, it's parent.
Yeah,
Sometimes I'm the parent there, right? So
yeah,
yeah, just that openness to discuss it, and that no feelings are disallowed.
yeah.
You feel the way you want to feel.
Yeah, exactly. And be able to, I suppose, like I know, like personally myself, like as a parent, like I always say to my little girl that she can talk to me about anything. I think if you can have that safe space for them, what I
Yeah,
mean, that's the thing. I know that's one of my big things is that I always say to them, you can talk to me about anything. I think it's good to have that space.
wait till she starts dating. It was like,
I might, have to, I
no,
might, I might have to contact you again.
yeah, no. I remember. I remember. I don't know if I actually said this to any one of her boyfriends. Well, she's only had two, but my mindset was just that I'll do to you what you do to her. You make her cry, I'm going to make you cry. No, I didn't actually say that, but I wanted to, right? Um, yeah. So no, she plays on that though. That's pretty good. No, she's very strong-willed. She doesn't. Yeah, she was just raised really well.
Yeah, nice.
And I give my wife a lot more credit for that than I didn't
Yeah,
do much.
yeah. Oh, well, you've been there. Quickly before we head off, mate, Vanessa wanted to know when is the book? When's the book?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I was supposed to be done on the 23rd, and I didn't make that deadline of June. I was still 4 chapters out from finish. So,
Okay.
and it's just in lieu of recent events and everything, it's just kind of been a little bit of a struggle to stay focused with it, earn money, and
Yeah.
um,
Well, shortlist now when it comes out, we'll definitely. I know I'll definitely have a look at it for sure. So let us know when it comes out, and I'll let the ladies know.
yeah, I know. And then I was beating myself up that I think I started this about 8 months ago, this project, or maybe a little bit longer, and that I thought it should be done. And I was reminded that, hey, if you get a book written of this nature and done and on the shelves in under a year, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So some take longer.
Yeah. Hopefully, it'll be good. It'll be good to hear about it when it does come out.
Yeah, I'm. I'm at the end. I want it done. I just want it done.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
it's one of those things that I procrastinated here and there and try to make it perfect here and there. And perfectionism, and procrastination, are two devils to a finish. They're the two biggest evils to trying to finish something.
Yeah. Well, Doug, I just have to say thank you for giving up your time tonight, or this. I know it's morning where you are, but thank you for giving your time up
Yeah.
for the interview. I definitely, like I said, it's been amazing. Your story is amazing. I know I've learned some stuff out of it. I hope the ladies have got something out of tonight. And if I get any questions in between, I'll definitely shoot them through to you.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but yeah, like I said, thank you for joining Manspeak tonight and giving an interview with a man in a man's view. And
Well, they can contact me too if they have any questions, if they're
yeah,
curious about
absolutely.
anything.
Yeah, and I said to the ladies, like, if you've got any questions for Doug, just let me know. I'll shoot them through and get answers back for you as soon as we get them back. And Doug will let us know about his book coming out, which would be awesome to hear. And if you've got any details, Doug, to share it through with me later on, and I'll definitely share it.
Mm-hmm.
No worries. But from Johnny M and Doug, thanks, ladies. Take care, and I'll see you next week for Man Speak Live. Take care. Thanks, ladies.
Good
Bye.
meeting you, Johnny.
Thanks, Doug. See you, buddy.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.